All right, I think we're good.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, welcome to No Tread Zone. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning.
All right, what are we getting into first? Because we're just going to jump into it. There's nothing PC about this. There's nothing practical about it. It's not going to be like fabulous. It's just going to be what it is. So let's dive in.
Well, dive in. There's a lot going on right now. I think the biggest issue, obviously, is what's happening with Dominion voting systems, and why do we have private attorneys doing the job of the Justice Department?
It's a good question. What is the Justice Department doing, though, about anything lately?
Bill Barr is a huge disappointment. I know a lot of people who support Trump and in the MAGA community don't want to hear that. I think he's a tremendous disappointment. He comes from the era of George H.W. Bush. He's about as deep state as they come. He's done nothing. He's arrested nobody. Look, I used to be a prosecutor. Give me the case. I could put it together. I don't know why Page and Strzok haven't been indicted. The mere text exchange they had was sufficient evidence for conspiracy. And now we have massive evidence of a voter fraud. Effectively, I don't know if you want to call it a conspiracy or if an algorithm, whatever you want to call it. There are serious irregularities that merit looking into. And another thing, people are always like, well, show us the evidence. Well, testimony is evidence. Affidavits are evidence. Evidence of those who witnessed a crime. We're going to provide their statements. Those are things that we need to hear. So I wish that the public would give these attorneys an opportunity to present that in court, because we're not trying this in the court of public opinion. This is going to be tried in state courts and ultimately in the Supreme Court. But why these private attorneys, Lynn Wood, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, why they're doing the work of the Justice Department is beyond me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. How do you feel about Sidney Powell? I seen yesterday there was quite some, melee involving Tucker Carlson and his take on, basically saying the facts should be the facts. And he was, I guess some people felt he was a little rude in his approach. I think he's more practical at this point, because placating people is not where we should be at. We just need the truth. So I could see where he was coming from. I mean, was it in poor taste? Maybe. But all in all, I do believe in Sidney Powell. I don't think she would be coming at this from such a vehement standpoint if she didn't have evidence to back it up.
I'll put it this way. I have tremendous respect for Sidney Powell as an attorney. If what she is saying is true, she's staking her reputation on it. If she fails to deliver, she is ruined. She's a laughingstock. She can never show her face in the legal community again. So she's going all in. She's got a storied career, and I certainly wouldn't risk my career the way that she has very publicly unless I had the evidence to back it up. So I'm going to believe her. I'm going to take her on her reputation and the lifetime of work that she has done. Tucker Carlson, people on the right, we don't want to buy into the cancel culture and be like they are on the left. Tucker Carlson is putting a program forth. He's supposed to ask the hard questions. We should have hard questions asked of both conservatives and liberals alike. And if he feels that Sidney Powell has not delivered the goods to the public, then it's his forum and you're welcome to watch him or not. Now, I've stopped watching Fox because I don't want to support the network, but I like Tucker Carlson and I support him, and I'm not willing to write him off. I watched this. I didn't watch it on Fox News. I watched it online today because I'm not going to give Fox News the ratings. I think he's doing his job, just like I think Sydney's doing her job. And we can't be a bunch of pearl clutchers and, toe certain lines. We have to be able to call each other out. And, could she be showing the people a little bit more than she is? Was she a little vague in her press conference? Yeah, she was a little vague. I think this is such public interest that the cards need to be out on the table and we need to be more transparent than we've been. So I understand the criticism, and I don't think he was rude. I think he had every right to call into question the claim she's making, because what she's saying, if true, would be the greatest crime ever committed in the history of the United States.
Agreed. We've never seen anything like this. It's definitely unprecedented, and it's unfortunate where we're at, all in all as a whole. But I agree that she can't really go any further than she has, other than what she said, because you got to save something for court. So I'm just hoping we see some action from it, because, it's more than evident that fraud was running rampant through this election, just in dead votes alone. Come on. Explain that. How do you have these people who've been dead for however many years voting, multiple votes? I don't get it. I don't get where we're at. I don't like it. It's hard to make sense of day in and day out, if you want my honest opinion.
It's hard to make sense of it because our voting systems are way too convoluted. Just because we have the technological ability doesn't mean we should. I think if there's one thing we take from this election, and first of all, I don't know how we're ever going to have an election in which there's integrity ever again. I think any election, whether it's for the town dog catcher or president of the United States, we're going to be questioning the results. I think we're in very dangerous territory. Look, if Joe Biden won the election fair and square, 78 million living, breathing Americans who are legally allowed to vote in their state and voted one time, if he got the votes, then he's the president. Whether we like it or not, we're happy about it or not, facts don't care about feelings. We got to abide by our own logic. I don't think that's the case. I think there were massive irregularities that at the very least merit looking into. What upsets me is that affidavits in this situation aren't going to cut it. If you're saying that an algorithm was programmed to shift votes, then those machines need to be taken apart. We need to see the source codes. We need to see the metadata. Show me with the source codes how that happened. Okay, if I'm a voter and I put my ballot in the machine and it says voting for Donald Trump and Michael Pence, and it goes in the machine and it logs that as a Biden-Harris vote, show me the data, the digital fingerprint, and show me that how that happened. I think that's the evidence people want to see, and I don't blame them for that. These are big accusations, but we have to be able to back it up.
Well, absolutely, especially with the Electoral College on the line. I mean, we're never, like you said, that's one of the biggest problems that we're going to face for, the rest of time now, to have a compromised way of voting. There's no coming back from that. So we're definitely in dangerous territory. It's not comforting at all.
No, across the board, we're not in danger. We're in very dangerous territory. It's certainly not comforting. I think what we need to do is we need to put technology aside and just go back to the basic rudimentary style of voting. It should be one day in person, put the blue ink on your finger that doesn't fade for a month so you can't come back and vote multiple times. Do it the way they do it in Afghanistan. I never thought in my life I'd say that. But we need to do what they do in Afghanistan. They have a better voting system than we do.
I agree. So how do you feel about overall the results that they're trying to push on us? Do you feel it truly was a landslide? How do you think he went with the totals?
I've heard a lot of numbers and I've played with the numbers myself. I think that it was a lot closer than people think. I don't think it was a landslide either direction. I think you have a very divided country, and I think the vote is going to reflect that. Mm-hmm. One thing I will tell you, every one of those votes for Donald Trump was for Donald Trump. Every one of those votes for Joe Biden, I'd say probably 75 to 80% of them were votes against Donald Trump. So you didn't have a lot of enthusiasm behind Joe Biden, but obviously just being out in the world, watching television, going online, that there are a lot of people that don't like the president and would vote for anybody who's standing against him. Mm-hmm. I have heard different numbers, but again, these are random people who are hypothesizing. I haven't seen any hard data. What we have right now is we have some serious smoke, and we have some red flags, and where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's red flags, we need to visit that and look into it. Is this an election that we can confidently say Joe Biden won and put it to bed and have the president concede? No, I don't think anyone's going to feel comfortable about that unless you want Joe Biden in the White House. The thing I've been saying this all week, I've been saying it to anyone who will listen, and I've said it on my own show, is that this affects everybody. This does not just affect people who voted for Donald Trump. This affects every single person, because an election with integrity is the only thing that separates us from a third world country. The fact that we get to choose by democratic process our leadership. And if that is taken away from us, then, we're already headed in that direction. The COVID lockdowns and restrictions have already, unfortunately, made a lot of people compliant. This Pavlovian response to authority, put on the mask and shut up and do as you're told. I think already socially and culturally, we're on dangerous ground. Right. So the fact that our willingness to fight has been weakened. The human spirit has been beaten into submission through months and months of stay away from your loved ones. I'm going to shut your business down by these governors, by these local, many times unelected bureaucrats. Mm-hmm. The Dr. Fauci's of the world, your county health board supervisors, whoever the hell they are that you didn't vote for, you don't know who they are, who are telling you how to live your life. You do that to people enough, you beat them down, their will to fight is going to be less. I think you have a situation right now, I can tell you, no matter the outcome, no matter what happens, the track that we are on nationally is not sustainable. Something's got to go. I think this national reconciliation, these bullshit calls to unity by the left, that's akin to being forced to marry a rapist. I swear, after the way they've treated us, this inhuman way of calling us racist and less than human, and now you have people coming out and want to put us on lists They want to isolate us. They want to ostracize us. But no, call to unity. No, a call to unity for them is unconditional surrender. Do what we say
Yeah.
when we say it on our terms.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Well said. As far as unity goes, they can shove it up their ass. I mean, you've given us what, 8, 9 months of sheer terror, telling us how to live, how to breathe, and it's not even like something that's logical. I mean, if this was imminent threat or danger, maybe then I would change my tune and be a little bit more in gear with, okay, I'll take your recommendation. Maybe I'll wear a mask. No, I won't. We have something that is less deadly than the flu, controlling our lives, controlling the mindsets. It's spiked suicides. I just don't understand how, if this is really in the interest of public health, why are we doing so much to thwart it and damage innocent people? Just because what Anthony Fauci said so, who has been wrong the entire time. We went from 15 days to shut down a nation to 249 days of people being told mixed messages every hour on the hour. And the people who watch the mainstream media, they're even worse off for it. They're hanging on every note, and they think that what they're being told is gospel. It's frightening. It's like the worst powder keg. It's the worst scenario that we could have that we're being presented with, and factually, we're handling it like shit.
We are handling it like shit, and I think that just goes with the as generations progress, we've gotten softer, we've gotten lazier, our lives have gotten more comfortable. Even in the United States, the poorest of us still have it better than 99% of the rest of the world. We have $1,000 loans. The overwhelming majority of us live in a house with heating and air conditioning. We're well fed. I mean, for the most part, we're not. Our forebearers were not living in the wilderness in 1775 and subsisting on our farms and hunting our game. We're not living that way. And the revolutionary spirit that spawned this nation, I think by and large has dwindled. Now, I say dwindled, I will not say dead, because I do think for an American, if you're Irish, drinking is your second nature. I think our national pastime is rebellion. It is in us. It is in our spirits, and we have to tap into that because there's so many more of us than there are of them. And if we just stood up and flexed a little muscle, and even peacefully, just a show of force, just demonstrating. I mean, look what they did, and that wasn't peaceful. But look what the left did. Taking to the streets the way they did, they controlled the narrative from that moment forward. And I think that's also when, for a lot of people, the veil on COVID was lifted. That you can have 15,000 people setting fires in Minneapolis, but 10 people can't get together for dinner. And then we see these pictures of Gavin Newsom at the French Laundry, and everybody knows what they've seen. And we know the veil has been lifted. But as far as taking a stand against this, people are afraid because people have a lot to lose. I think we've just been socially conditioned to be compliant. And we need to tap into that ancestral spirit of rebellion and have people stand up and say, we're not going to listen. And you have enough people standing outside the Capitol building or making a show of it. And these people, all of a sudden, they run the risk of losing their jobs. I mean, they filed articles of impeachment against Governor Gretchen Whitmer up in Michigan, which I think is a fantastic start.
I agree.
But you need to have 10 million people outside the State House in Sacramento telling Gavin Newsom how they feel about his edict that you can't have 10 people over at your house for Thanksgiving, but he had 12 people for his birthday party at the French Laundry at $350 a plate with no masks on. So we just see it's a lot of animal farming. It's a lot of, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. We're watching it happen. And I think that the credibility of our government, state, local, federal government is shot. I think the credibility of our DOJ is shot. And I think the credibility of our electoral process is shot. And coupled with the divisions in this country, we're just headed down a very dangerous path. I don't know how this ends, and it doesn't end well.
I agree with you that it's innate in our nature as patriots to have an opposition and basically a duty to oppose the government when they pull this shit. But also, I think when you said people fear that they have so much to lose, I look at that as almost an excuse now, because sure, you have things that you've worked for and you have things that you've built up over years of doing what you're supposed to do as a free and independent person and make your own way and find your pursuit of happiness and how to attain that. But at the same time, we have so much more that we're going to lose if we don't stand up. But I think in order to stand up, we need to first debilitate the mainstream media. If we're ever going to be successful and not be deemed, Klan members or Klan rallies, which is actually a peaceful assembly by the book, in order to attain anything that is rational, First, we need to take out the injection of the toxins, which are being fed to the people on such an unhealthy scale. That would be mainstream media. Because if we didn't have that narrative to coincide that these are Klansmen or, white supremacists or those who don't want to unify just for the sake of being ignorant, we would have a hell of a lot better of a chance to stand up and swarm a Capitol building and be taken seriously on a peaceful front, just to say, like, you guys have overreached, you've pissed people off, you caused insurmountable damage. But the hard process is not only getting media out of that equation, we have to actually find people that are going to be willing to do that part, to stand up and say, okay, we are going to go to the Capitol building. We are going to let them know we've had enough. So complacency is going to be one of our biggest issues. Media is definitely one of our biggest hurdles. It's just, how do we bring that all together in a swift and orderly fashion to where we're not more of a detriment than we are help? Because right now I feel like America is flatlining, and our only choice to resuscitate her is to actually get up and do something. Like, it's all well and good to tweet and, bitch and complain, but when I see folks wearing a freaking mask to jog down the street, I mean, when do you take back control of your life? When do you say enough is enough? I don't care what side you fall on. No one should be okay with the government telling them anything at all.
Well, the as far as the media goes, that's not a burden we can place on our government. That's something we have, as consumers of media, have to be willing to turn it off. And I think by and large we have. I'm very proud of conservatives. Fox News did a grave disservice to this country when they called Arizona almost instantly, and Donald Trump's got 99% of the vote in Florida, and they won't call for him. They showed their hand that night. And I think a lot of people were turned off by that because Arizona had not yet been called. And if I'm a voter and I get to the polls late and I'm standing in line and I'm playing with my phone and I get an alert on my phone saying Fox News has called Arizona for Joe Biden, I may turn around and go home. And there may be 20, 30, 40,000 people just like me. That could have been the difference. That could have made the difference in that state. And as it really comes down to the wire, it's going to come down to a few states. So they did a tremendous disservice, and the influence that we've allowed them to have, that's not the government's fault. We have a First Amendment. We have free press. You can pretty much say whatever you want as long as you're not, promoting violence. It's incumbent upon us as consumers of media to turn it off and to go find other sources. Why do you think podcasting is so popular? Why do you think people with voices online are so popular? People are turning off the mainstream media in droves. So I think that's something that is more self-directed. I wouldn't look to the government and say, you got to shut down the media. I wouldn't want to live in a country that shuts down the media. If Fox News or CNN wants to get up and say Orange Man bad every night of the week, be my guest. But I, as a consumer of that media, I hold the cards, just like I hold the cards as a citizen. I hold the cards with my government. I am, my 330 million countrymen and women. I hold the cards with media. As a consumer, I'm not going to consume that product. So it's incumbent upon us to take that step and say, I'm not going to do it. And then everyone needs to follow suit. That's how you shut it down.
I agree. I don't think it's the government's fault, but I do think the government, in a way, has weaponized the media to fit their agenda, whatever that may be. But I don't understand how we've let it get to this point. I mean, people should have been turning off Fox News and CNN and all that other bullshit years ago. It's entertainment. It's not, they're no longer people that are trying to bring you the truth. If anything, what we're presented most of the time is not fact-based. It's opinions and feelings from activists. They're not even journalists or reporters. They're angry. And the message becomes just trash. And we got people eating it up who don't think like you or I. They don't have the wherewithal to say, let me look beyond Brian Stelter. They're okay with what they're told. They turn the TV off and go to bed. So I don't know how we fix both of those issues quickly enough to actually, change something.
Well, propaganda as a political weapon is nothing new. That by no means is novel to 2020. What's novel is the speed and the breadth of information.
Yes.
The fact that we all have the ability to instantaneously access information in the palms of our hands. It's not like we go to work and we come home and turn on the nightly news and then you get your dose of news. Think about it, especially people like you and I. I mean, we're plugged into current events from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to bed. So the way that information is disseminated, we just have more access to it now, and there's more channels for it. So while the technology has allowed us to do that, I mean, the internet is the modern day printing press. It has just allowed information to spread, and people are becoming more and more aware. But propaganda as a political weapon, that goes back to prehistory. Right. I mean, as long as there have been tribes and people in charge, those who spread the message, there's going to be a slant either way. So as far as that goes, that will never change. Look, we on the right, we look to CNN and we look to MSNBC and go, this far left. But where do we turn? We're turning to Breitbart. We're turning to the Daily Caller. We're turning to InfoWars. We're turning to my great friend Matt Couch. We're turning to the DC Patriot. So, we're as guilty of it too. We're consuming the media that we want to see. And that more goes to just our human nature to be part of a tribe and to have that confirmation bias that the way I think, if I read an article in CNN or Slate or something like that, or The Atlantic, that says there was no voter fraud, Dominion voting systems is perfectly legitimate, and here's my article, I'm going to shut it off. I may go on InfoWars where Alex Jones is like, Dominion is coming for you. There's black helicopters everywhere, guys, and special ops. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to consume that because that's what I like to read. So we're all guilty of it to some degree.
Well, that was a very good impersonation of Alex Jones.
I'm a big fan. I love Alex Jones. I kind of want to be him.
Yeah, in his tank with his megaphone screaming, "Get to Virginia." I'd like to pick his brain. So what's it like where you're at? Are you seeing people who feel like you, or the lockdowns? What's going on with that?
Florida's a red state. Donald Trump won Florida, and I see how it is. I go down to my office building. I've been working from home a lot because courts are closed. So, I'll go down to my office to see clients or grab the mail or just, drop in. So I was down there yesterday and, over at, the kitchen getting a cup of coffee, and I didn't have a mask on. Some woman walks in, she's like, "Oh my God, you don't have a mask on." And I was like getting kind of defensive. I turned around, like, I don't have to wear a mask. No one's around me. And she's like, no. I'm so happy to see someone with a mask on. And then we had an exchange, and it was a nice, I feel like us conservatives need to have a secret handshake and start talking about Trump. It's funny, my 10-year-old John, we'll be driving in the car, and he's a witty kid. And he sees a guy riding his bike with a mask on. We're driving through where we live here in Broward County. And he'll just look at me and go, "Dad, I already know who he voted for." I'm like, yeah, it's pretty fair. So those who, if you see someone not wearing a mask, it's almost like seeing someone with an American flag in front of their home. I know who you voted for. If I see you driving in your car by yourself with a mask on and a face visor, I know who you voted for. It's a virtue signal, effectively, I think, both ways. I think those that don't wear a mask, is kind of like our act of rebellion, and those that wear a mask are towing, they're making a political statement. But the science behind it, everybody knows it. Even if you talk to medical professionals one-on-one, you go to your doctor's office, you tell them, "Doc, are these really necessary?" And they're like, "No, this doesn't do anything for you." Right. And you look, the way people dress when they're in virology labs, they're not wearing, a little Tommy Copper mask on their face. They're covered in a hazmat suit because germs can get in. And the bottom line is that it's overwhelmingly a treatable illness. Take your zinc, take your vitamin D. Hydroxychloroquine, the studies have shown works really well, which is one thing where I disagree with the president. I don't like this push for a vaccine for a treatable illness.
I agree.
It's treatable therapeutics. Why need a vaccine? And then you're kind of enabling the viral industrial complex. I don't want Bill Gates and his minions kicking my door down and force inoculations. I mean, that's unfortunately where, if Joe Biden is designated the winner of the election, that's where we're headed. And if you want to get into that, you want to talk about the Great Reset. All you have to do is listen to some old speeches of Bill Gates. What's the biggest problem facing the planet? Overpopulation. What is the Great Reset? A society without you in it.
Yeah, amen. I seen a video the other day that was pretty unsettling, talking about how they were going to mandate it and go door to door, and the military was going to have a hand in it. I don't agree with that one bit. I don't see how we've gotten there. I don't see the need to be there. And at the end of the day, it should be your own individual choice. So I don't know how that's going to go over, but I'm definitely not a fan. Not looking forward to that.
My body, my choice. Yeah, I'm just echoing what they said left.
Oh, God. Trash. Correct. But, yeah, I don't know. I think right now there's so many people that are afraid. They don't think of anything beyond that. But Bill Gates being able to tell me to take a vaccination when he doesn't vaccinate his own family, I can't wrap my head around that. You're supposed to be the end all be all of why we should have vaccinations, yet you don't believe in them yourself. That makes no sense to me.
Bill Gates didn't graduate from college. He's a software engineer.
Yeah.
Who is he to tell me what I can put in my body? If you want to come over and program, Microsoft Windows, I'd be happy to have you in my home. But you dropped out of college and you're a software engineer. I mean, that's like me going to NASA and telling people how to fly the space shuttle. Why are we listening to him? Right. He's wealthy. Great. I'm proud of you, buddy, but you have no right to tell me what I can put in my body.
Amen. Amen. So let's branch out to our favorite winners on the left. AOC, what do you make of her and all this, canceled debt and this is a human right, this isn't a human right? Why is she pushing that narrative and why do people believe in it?
AOC, if you're listening, I'll have a Cadillac margarita with salt on the rim and a cheese quesadilla. That's the only information we should be exchanging. Is I give her my drink order and she brings it to me, and I'm sure she's a fine bartender. She's got a college degree in economics, and no, she's totally unqualified for the job she has. She's a socialist. She believes what she reads. She's one of like those college. I mean, I graduated college in 2004. I'm getting old. So I graduated back in 2004, and we had them back then. And like they read like the Communist Manifesto, and they'd be turned on. They'd have a professor that maybe indoctrinate them a little bit. I don't know what all these people are getting indoctrinated in college. Like, I went to college, I went to law school. I never had a professor that had like profound impact on my life. I just went and tried to pass the class and go home. But as far as AOC, like canceling student debt, okay, who pays for that, and why stop at student debt? I have a mortgage. I have 2 mortgages right now. I just bought a new home, and I'm still in the process of selling mine. I have 2 mortgages. Does anyone want to help me? I got credit card debt too. How about that? I got car payments. Anyone want to help with that? It goes on and on. Why stop at student debt? Why?
Well, that's my fear, because once you allow for one idea, then it's going to be all encompassing, because they're going to be entitled to the first one and then they're going to want 10 other things relieved. But that's not how this works. But it just baffles me that the human mind can be coerced into such thinking when our country is founded off the premise of waking up, putting your best foot forward and earning what you want and, making that dream happen. We don't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to dream this and someone else is going to go fulfill it for me. That doesn't make sense. And I'm certainly not paying for these folks. They should pay for themselves. I just don't understand how as a nation we're at so many different avenues and they're all the wrong ones.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, reason and accountability. I mean, now you're not talking about political problems. You're talking about deep-seated cultural problems.
Yeah.
And you want to get to that. I think that's a whole other conversation. I mean, I don't even know where we begin. I try on my show, Bob and Take America. We try to figure that out. That's kind of the theme of the show. Is we try to even go beyond politics and go down to the very decaying culture of this country and figuring out where did we go from, ask not what your country can do for you to, give me. So as far as student debt goes, yes, the cost of a college education has gone up astronomically, much different from our parents and grandparents' generation. Our grandparents' generation, many of them didn't even need to go to college, and many of them had, successful careers. There was a real thriving middle class where you could be a blue collar worker. You could, work a job, maybe having not finished college, and you could raise a family. You could raise a family on a single income. So the cost of living has really had a profound effect on the American family, and feminism too has had a lot to do with that. I firmly believe that women should have the choice to do whatever they want. My wife is gainfully employed. She's got more degrees than I have. But I also, when our kids were young, she stayed home for 7 years. She was a housewife and a mother for 7 years. And I look at my kids, they're black belts, they're great students. My oldest son was just inaugurated into like his 10th honor society. They're great kids. And I owe that entirely to my wife being able to stay home and be the mother in the house that children needed to be. I think that's why we looked at generations past, and they were more successful than the generations of the future, because they had that grounding. They had that moral and ethical guidance. They learned these values, and they were able to cope and adjust. I mean, my grandparents got married in their early 20s. They had their kids by the time they were 30. They were, they bought their house and they lived. What we have now, this college thing, is not about debt. It's about an inability to cope. It's about an inability to step into adulthood and embrace responsibility. That's why you have people who can't go out on their own. You have 85% of these college graduates who are moving home. You want to change it. The cost of living has to be adjusted. You have to be able to raise a family on a single income. And that's one thing that, hey, maybe Bernie Sanders and us on the right can come to terms with that. You should be able to raise a family in America on a single income, where a woman, a wife, a mother can stay in the home, can be what children need the mother to be and not have latchkey kids or not have absentee parentism. So it starts in the family, and that starts with us. And then transcending from there is, what about trade schools? Why are we not pushing trade schools onto young people? There's a stigma attached to it because mom and dad don't want to go to their country club and tell them that their son's a turret lathe operator. Well, their son's making 120 grand a year. He has no debt, and the other kid is living at home and has a bullshit degree from some shit college and can't get a job as a bartender. I mean, that's just the reality of where we are. So I think trade schools, I think making life more affordable, and I think just getting back to those basics, and it really starts in the home. We have to enable our children to be able to embrace adulthood, because we're not raising kids, we're raising future adults.
Amen. Well said. Damn. Well done. Question for you. Ed Markey. Do you know who that is? Are you familiar with that name?
Familiar name. Refresh my memory who that is.
U.S. Senate candidate out of Massachusetts.
Oh, yes. What did he do? He did something recently.
His latest diarrhea tweet about it's time to start asking what your government can do for you.
Typical East Coast Massachusetts liberal, and
East Coast shit.
We're not like that. Well, John Kennedy was an East Coast Massachusetts liberal, and he's the complete opposite. So I don't know where the Democratic Party has gone.
I don't either, but I think they're at the precipice of starting to turn on each other, which kind of brings me joy. Because, none of them are on the same page. It all just goes by what they feel in that moment. And I don't think any of them are making sound decisions based off of just, what's just and what their job is. I think it's mostly what will, placate them and fit their narrative for the moment and appease their constituents. I think it's a conjoined effort of just absolute fuckery, for lack of better terms. But I just think where we're going and where we've been are just so starkly different. I mean, I think time is of the essence, obviously. Also, we have a very little window of opportunity, I feel, to correct this, because so many things are being attacked at once. It's like, where do you begin to make sense of it? That's kind of why I wanted to start this podcast, was not only just to reach out to other folks like yourself and people who are, a lot more learned in law and things like that than I am, but also because I have a very keen interest in talking to the people around me. And I talk to people every day from multiple states, hours on end. I mean, whether it's text, phone call, a lot of people, even some liberals that I've talked to, they feel the same. So I don't know what it's going to take. I think we're at the point where we can change it. We just have to figure out how. And I mean, the whole unity thing, I think that's going to go out the window. But, I just don't like where we are.
Nobody likes where we are, whether you're on the right or the left. I mean, there used to be a time in this country where you could have political differences. We lived through years of political differences with Obama, and us on the right. I didn't know anybody who ostracized friends and family because they supported Obama. I didn't like Obama. I never liked Obama. Toward the end of his term, I downright hated Obama and what he was doing to this country. And I had an entire part of my family that worshiped the guy. And I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say a word. I'd still go over for holidays. We'd still hang out. We just didn't talk about it. And I don't know where politics, it became a religion. And gosh, if you don't agree with me, if you don't toe the line, conservatives are guilty of that too. I think we've really fallen hard on tribalism, which the social media companies and the media, they tap into that. You got to remember that the technology that we're being presented with now is nothing new. All they're doing is poking those evolutionary buttons in your brain and just tapping into the human psyche. They're just much better at doing it now. We are tribal animals. We have been since we were primates. We have to be tribal. We are social creatures. You have to be accepted by a tribe, otherwise you're going to freeze to death. And that cave instinct, that part of your brain, is very well alive. I very crassly, I call it on my show, it's called the eat, fucking kill part of your brain. Am I going to kill it, or am I going to procreate with it? That's the caveman brain. And social media and the media itself, they know how to tap into that. And division and things like that, because in that division is where you find your unity. Well, here's my tribe. I'm a conservative. They're going to accept you in. And social media, that validation and that dopamine reflex that you get, it's all part of it. So yeah, you talked about earlier, what the media is doing. They're just poking our buttons. I mean, they're basically, some people say they're retraining our brain. I don't know if they're retraining. I think they're just kind of taking what's in there and It's like taking an alcoholic and driving them to a bar, or taking a gambling casino.
Right.
They're just kind of like taking our biological vices and kind of running off with them.
I agree. I definitely agree. So say we have, we get to court, we have evidence that we can overturn the election. What do you foresee happening then? Do you see rioting, and how do you think that's going to play?
Yeah. Okay. So right now, what I can tell you with a great deal of certainty is, had the media declared Donald Trump the winner on election night, we would in week 3 of massive civil unrest, like National Guard having to be deployed. It would look basically like America looked back at the end of May with George Floyd, which conveniently is when COVID took a break. So we would look like that. Right now, the left believes they won, and they believe that these challenges are just going to fall on deaf ears, and that soon enough, Donald Trump is going to be out of office. The reason you're not seeing rioting right now is because these riots are not spontaneous. It's not like you and I are a couple of Antifas and we're like, hey, let's go riot. There are forces above. There's money. There is organization that is saying, hey, we're going to go do this at this time. Those people that are connected to George Soros and connected to the big money organizations that have the goal of sowing discord and creating chaos and confusion, they're holding on right now because they think they're winning, and they want to maintain that moral high ground. They want to make conservatives look like un-American, and you're not accepting the results of the election. Even though they did that for 3.5 years with Mueller, they never accepted the election of 2016. And they expect because Bayer or Neil Cavuto says that he's a president, you fall in line. So they're holding off the dogs right now. I can tell you a couple scenarios I've game planned with my co-host. I was on the phone with him, Rampage, who everybody knows, Rampage Rants from Twitter. He's one of my co-hosts and a great friend of mine. And we've game planned a couple scenarios ourselves. And one of those scenarios would be, if Donald Trump refuses to concede, if the electors certify the election on December 14th and it's official and it's final and he refuses to concede, I think then you're going to see rioting afoot. One situation that frightens me is if we get to inauguration day and Trump refuses to leave, what's going to happen? Is the military going to force him out? Is the Secret Service going to force him out? And then how are patriots going to respond to that? Are you going to have a showdown in front of the White House? Now, I don't think we're violent people. We don't start trouble, but we will defend this republic. So I think that's the concern. If the courts invalidate votes, or if the Supreme Court says there was so much election fraud, they find the evidence is sufficient, and they invalidate the entire presidential election, in which case constitutionally it then goes to the House, where Republicans have a majority of electors and Donald Trump is elected by the House, which has happened twice in our history before, I think then you're going to have massive rioting. So either way, the end result, you're going to have a sizable percentage of people in this country, sizable, tens of millions, who are going to feel that something was stolen from them. And that's just not a good way to go forward.
No, it's not. So let's look at it the other way. Say that doesn't happen and Biden's declared, not the office-elect fake president. What do you see him doing in his tenure? Do you see him implementing anything positive, or do you see him destructing everything that we've already built up and, maintained the last 4 years?
I don't think Biden's got a clue. I think he's going to do what he's told.
Yeah.
I think he's in bed with Ukraine. He's in bed with Russia. I think I think the policies you're going to see, I think kind of as a symbolic gesture, he's going to undo he's going to undo the Trump tax cut. He's going to stop the wall or destroy the wall. He's also got a lot of these fringe groups that now think they have an ally. Like BLM is going to have a seat at the table, and Kamala Harris is she's a BLM sympathizer, and I think that you're going to have BLM having a more active role, deciding, what can go into school curriculums and things like that. Relations and things like that may become a real issue that's going to be debated. It's very important that we keep the Senate. We haven't taken back the House, but we've diminished the margins that they have there. Remember that there are still Democrats in this country, in the Senate and the House, that don't fall in line with AOC and don't fall in line with Kamala Harris. So I think count on them to be reasonable. But is Joe Biden going to be a great president? Is he going to set the world on fire? No, I think he'd be a one-term placeholder, and then Kamala Harris would run in 2024. I don't even think Biden might make it out of his first term. I think he's just too old. I just don't think he's got it within him. I think the plan in place was always that if he did win the election, is that he would serve for a year or two. I some people say, "Oh, he won't make it a month." I think they'll keep him going for a while. He's not going to be a very visible president. He's not going to be out on Twitter. He's not going to be out having press conferences. I think you're going to see Kamala Harris taking on a lot of the spokesperson roles of the White House. But I think in time, I think Joe Biden would probably resign, just age and medical reasons, whatever it may be, and then Kamala Harris would be president.
Right.
It scares me. It's terrifying.
It is terrifying. She's a shit human, shit prosecutor, bad senator. I mean, just all across the board, she's shit. But just based off his first 5 executive orders, I mean, we can already kind of see where that whole regime, as I call them, would be headed. And I just see it being totally destructive. I agree with the folks that take the, earlier bet that he really wouldn't have that long lasting of a position. I think they'd probably use him for like 3 to 6 months and then maybe some phantom illness, or maybe he'd fall down a set of stairs. Who knows? But I just don't see him. I don't see him being a viable subject at all. I don't even know how we got to this point. And if you try to make me believe that 70 plus million folks voted for this man, or however many they made up, he couldn't fill lawn circles. 6. So how did half the country support a man who doesn't even know what day it is? Make me I just can't come to terms with some of these things. I don't know.
You got to come to terms with the fact that a lot of people hate Donald Trump. As popular as he is to his supporters and his base, there is a very large percentage of this country, maybe not over 50%. I don't think it's over 50%, but in the 40s, that hates him. And they're not inspired to go out and go listen to Joe Biden speak, but they are inspired to vote against him. Remember, Joe Biden didn't win the election. If he does win the election, Donald Trump would have lost the election. It was not an election for Biden. It was an election against Trump.
That's true. But I guess the hardest part of that to, sit with and let marinate is the fact that when you ask these people why they hate Donald Trump, it's only most of the answers I've ever gotten to this day remain the same. It's the way he speaks. And okay, yes, I get there's a certain modicum of decency that should be upheld. There's a certain way you should maybe speak in front of folks. But I just don't understand how you can be so against a man who's been blunt and honest with you since the beginning for a guy that's going to bullshit you for however long he's in office, if he even gets there.
I agree.
I mean, I think it's sad that our country has literally fallen to their feelings rather than how do we face something and fix it. It shouldn't be, oh, Orange Man hurt my feelings today, so therefore I'm going to vehemently oppose him for the remainder of his tenure. That doesn't make sense to me. Even if you're a leftist or you're on the right, wherever you fall, your first and foremost priority should be your country and upholding it. You may not like the other side. You may not like what Trump offers, Biden offers, but what you should like is what your country offers you. Freedom. You get to wake up tomorrow and do what you want to do and what you got to do to make your life the best it can be. And we need to stop focusing on, oh, I don't like how it was said. I mean, I don't like how a lot of shit said to me. I get a lot of weird shit said to me all the time. If I got so wrapped up in that, I wouldn't do anything productive. I would be nothing. I would literally just stay in my room, in my feelings. I can't understand that. That's not how you fix a country. It's not how you operate one. It's how you harm one. And I don't know. I don't know. I think Biden and his whole regime, I can't even call them a team. They all are reminiscent of that fact. It's more like how the people feel as opposed to what's really best for them and what can be implemented in a safe way that's constructive for both sides. We've totally lost sight of that. I think every suit has totally lost sight of that. I don't trust any of them as far as I can throw them. And that includes Donald Trump. Love Donald Trump, support him. Everyone knows that. But at the end of the day, do I trust him? I trust him, I guess, to make the best decisions possible. But I think it's foolish when you trust anyone in government because they're just going to abuse it eventually.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's why one of the things that really gets me riled up on the right is trust the plan. It's coming. I think that's a lot of bullshit. I want to see action. I think Bill Barr's a disappointment. I think a lot of the people around Trump have unfortunately turned out to be less than stellar. I hope if he's given the opportunity for a second term, I think he's going to surround himself with better people. I've always looked forward to second term Trump. Presidents in their second term are unrestricted. They can do a lot more. They're very constrained in their first terms. But we got to get him to that finish line. And if we don't, we got a lot of figuring out to do as a country. Because my fear is that if Trump does lose the election and Joe Biden is declared the winner, I don't think you're going to see a Republican president again for a very, very long time. I just don't see anyone who, the heir apparent. You can say Donald Jr., things like that, and maybe people can get behind him, but is that base big enough to push you beyond the finish line? And if Donald Trump lost the election, the answer to that is no.
I agree. I agree with you on that. Definitely. I think it'll be a very long time before we saw anyone come up, even just someone like Donald Trump. But if they claim, the White House now, we're in for a world of hurt. That's my opinion. I just don't see it ending well for anyone, honestly.
Fight like hell, expose the truth. If these voter machines were, algorithmically programmed to shift votes, then we need to see that evidence needs to be presented. Affidavits are great. Look, testimonial evidence. I'm a lawyer by trade. In most cases, you're not going to have the CSI evidence. I think people are expecting. CSI has really done a disservice to justice in this country because people, see the evidence. Ballots don't bleed. You think David Caruso's like going to walk into like a polling place where voting machines upturned and ballots everywhere, and he's like, someone lost the election for good? I mean, it's just not going to happen like that. I think we have to have people that are on the inside, like, hey, I work for Dominion. This is what happened.
Right.
We interviewed Mr. Altman the other day. Matt Couch and I would talk to him, Mr. Altman, who has affidavits, and he's spoken to people, and apparently this Eric Krumer guy from Dominion, who is just an avowed Trump hater, like, yeah, you've got these people in charge with massive biases. Is that enough? Just because someone has a bias, is that enough to say, well, you committed a crime? No, that's not enough. Really, I don't understand why private citizens are doing the work that our Justice Department should be doing. These machines, look, if these machines are programmed to do something, or the software is programmed to do something, at a DUI case, I can get the source codes for the intoxilizer to see if there was a problem.
Right.
If search warrant, they take your laptop, they say there's illicit material on your laptop, they take it, they send it to the U.S. Secret Service, and they take the whole thing apart. Your entire digital fingerprint is there. If these machines were programmed to shift votes, then where's the programming codes? Someone had to input these machines. We don't have the kind of AI yet where the machines can do that. Someone has to program it. And we got to have that code and have someone look at it and go, aha, this is where it is. So for every 5 Trump votes, they're going to throw 2 to Biden, whatever the ratio is. If that's what an algorithm is basically an instruction to a machine to do it this way, then we need to see that. So I think when people say see the evidence, we need to see the forensics on the software and how that may have happened.
I agree. Well said. So where do you think we go from here? What's the next step? What's the next thing we attack first, and how do we do it?
Well, I think we let Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood and Jenna Ellis and those fine attorneys do their work. Let them litigate. Should not concede until all avenues have been crossed and there's nothing left. And at that point, should he concede? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But if we lose the challenge in the courts, if the evidence isn't there, I mean, what do we do then? I mean, that I don't think I'm even prepared to answer or address until all other avenues have been exhausted. Right. Because that's where we start getting into some dark territory. That's when we're like, okay, what's going to happen now? Right. I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows. I think we have to exhaust the challenges at the legal level, and then you take it. But I believe there's evidence. I believe the evidence presented has raised serious questions, but is it enough to push us over the threshold and say, like, conclusively, this is what happened? I don't think we've been shown that yet. But again, I put my faith in Sidney Powell that she would not put her reputation on the line over a lie. She's just got too storied a career to do that. And if she did that, if she put it all in and she failed to deliver, the consequences to her personally and professionally would be devastating.
I agree wholeheartedly. Well, my last question, I guess, to tie this back into earlier and to get you out of here, because I know you have things to do. If you could tell, like, our people, our followers, whatever you want to call them, because I hate even coming up with a word, but if you could tell them anything in terms of, the compliance issues and what we're seeing with local and state health authorities and things like that with masks and curfews and such, what would you tell them?
We are all human beings. No human is above you. No human being is beneath you. I don't care what titles we bestow upon them, how much money they have. It's all made up. Money is nothing but paper with pictures of presidents on them so we don't kill each other over getting something to eat. That's a line from a movie. I'm not going to take credit for that's a line from a great movie. But the bottom line is that these are fellow human beings that are exercising dominion over your life. Stop looking at them as authority figures and look at them as fellow human beings in a state of nature. You tell them where they can go shove their edicts and orders. But in this orderly society where it's stratified to the point where people are above us and people are beneath us, we look to them as godlike. And there is only one God. And he does not exist here on this planet. He does not walk the earth with us. We are but apes with the ability to reason, and we have opposable thumbs. And no person is above you. When someone tells you how to live your life and how many people you can have in your home and what you can wear on your face, you need to have the wherewithal to say, you don't have that authority over me. And if enough people do it, then action will take foot. But all they can do is hurt you. That's really the only thing they hold over you is a threat of pain. And maybe people have to go to jail. Maybe some people have to take bumps and bruises. But no social change happens kindly. It doesn't happen without breaking a few eggs. So don't be afraid. Don't live in fear. It's a treatable illness. Don't shut the world down. Look, we've lasted this long. You know what's great? Immunities. I love immunity.
Yes.
It's fantastic. The immune system is a marvelous, marvelous invention. And we've survived a lot, and we will continue to survive. And just stay positive and stay in the fight and don't lose faith and enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. Be stress-free. Take a walk. Turn off the computer. Turn off the phone. Hug your loved ones. Watch some good TV. Just have fun. Eat good food. I take great pleasure in food. Eat good food. Life is too short to watch your calories. I hear I say this. I'm like about to go to the gym in the afternoon, but
yeah, I was gonna say you're a bit of a gym rat. So
I am a bit of a gym rat, but I only because I eat like a fat kid. I can stuff my face. So if I don't commit to exercise regime, then I'd probably be one of those guys who has to shed a bed to get to 1,000 pounds. So. Like Richard Simmons fat, like in the bed with my turkey leg, and so yeah, I have to exercise a lot, but no, I take great pleasure in food and stuff. I'm not a big drinker, but I do like the occasional drink or cigar or vice like that. But just find things you love. Find things you love. It's not all about politics.
Amen. You got to take a break from it every now and then. And I think people need to remember that, which is why I also, again, wanted to get into this, because there's times where I want to talk politics or just, be snarky as shit and maybe fire a few shots at some of them. But at the end of the day, I do like folks, and I like knowing that we're all going to be all right. It's easy to shove your head in the sand and give up and all that happy horse shit. But I'm not someone who gives up, and I don't like when others around me get that feeling. So hopefully by doing this and starting this with you today, which I thank you very much for, we can bring some people on and let them be heard and, get their gripes out and see where they're at and maybe see if they have a different idea than we do. And if we can bridge a gap maybe or come up with some ideas cohesively, then I'm all for it. But we can't forget to live. We can't forget to smell the flowers along the way. And we can't forget that we're Americans and we fight. And I'm hoping to just keep that momentum going in whatever capacity I can or we can or whatever we can do. I think we should be doing at this point.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I agree completely.
Well, I thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you go to the gym, don't feel guilty if you should eat an Oreo or two, and we'll be in touch later today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, and thanks for having me.
Same to you. Later.
Bye.